For Mike Burns, insulin injections were just part of his life as a diabetic. But when his vision began to fail, he knew he had to go beyond traditional care. Approved as a valid medical treatment since the 1950s, hypnotherapy offers the power of healing in the power of suggestion. Attention deficit disorders in our children are on the rise, affecting their ability to learn. But there are natural alternatives to mood-altering drugs. We'll look at them today as we journey together to a place beyond medicine. This is where lawyer Mike Burns would like to be. But since he passed the bar exam, he's had to make a choice between career and caring for his health. It's been a constant battle since one particular summer day when he was 6 years old.
I recall it rather vividly because I was at my grandfather's cottage and I just kept getting sicker and sicker and was losing a lot of weight. I recall that.
He just was awake all night long drinking water, and then he just cried all night long, so we took him to the hospital.
I drove the car in. My father held him in his lap on the way in. And at that time, I never saw anything that looked more like a corpse and not be one in all my life.
The doctor asked me if I would like a glass of water. Not only did I want a glass of water, but I really craved it because I drank 9 glasses, one right after another, after another, after another. At that point, the doctor was pretty clued into what I probably had.
The diagnosis hits the whole family like a ton of bricks. 6-year-old Mike Burns has diabetes.
Okay, the type of diabetes I have is called type 1 insulin-dependent diabetes. Some people considered type 2 have a pancreas that still works. Mine does not work at all. So the only way I can bring down sugars to metabolize food is for me to take insulin injections each day.
Although it takes some getting used to, the daily injection becomes a part of young Mike's routine.
At that time, it was only 1 shot a day. It was before they got into multiple shots on a daily basis. I know that my sugar was going low a lot of time because I would get shaky legs.
When that happens, young Mike has a quick remedy, one that earns him the nickname Mr. Lifesavers.
I was a kid that always had the roll of Lifesavers always in his pocket. My Lifesavers were my lifesaver, I guess, as a kid, because that's what I used to bring the sugars back up.
Besides an avid interest in athletics, Mike is a good student, and he refuses to allow his diabetes to stand in the way of his dream, to become a lawyer. But one side effect threatens to take it all away.
I had a rupture in my eye where blood came down, and I woke up the next morning and my one eye was like, I saw red basically. Everything out of that one eye I saw red. There's blood vessels rupturing in there.
And so we took him to the specialist, and he sent us to another specialist. He more or less said that he'd probably go blind.
The vision started to go down from that point, and it progressed rather quickly. I was going down to basically legally blind in the span of 6 months.
Mike's condition requires immediate surgery to prevent his retina from being detached by the blood vessels growing in his eye. His eyesight improves somewhat, but he is left with permanent double vision. It doesn't stop him from continuing his studies, it just makes it more difficult. It also doesn't help that as a law student, he rarely has time to look after himself.
I recall numerous times going from one court to the next, grabbing a chocolate bar, maybe some milk, as I'm going to the next court because there's not enough time to eat lunch. So at that point, I sort of noticed that the sugars were probably starting to go a little further out of range.
It's not long before Mike's vision takes a major turn for the worse.
I was writing my bar exams at the time. I noticed it was a little cloudier, and I just thought maybe it was the strain of studying, but cataracts had developed because of previous eye surgeries, and now they were getting worse, making it harder to see.
Although his eyes are failing him, it's Mike's ears that offer him an incentive to take steps in a new direction.
When I was sitting in my retinal surgeon's office, and there was a woman there, and I heard her speaking. She had indicated that a year or 2 previous, she'd had a kidney transplant because of complications of diabetes. I looked at her, and I realized this woman's younger than I am. I thought, I better watch out. So I went to a health show called the Revive Health Show.
At the health show, Mike is directed to the booth of Cheryl Ivaniski, a wellness practitioner specializing in the treatment of diabetes.
We spoke for, I think it had to be 45 minutes or an hour. And I learned more about nutrition in 45 minutes than I did in 28 years before that.
The first thing that Michael needed to learn for himself was that he has all the choices in the world. He doesn't have to delete or eliminate anything in his life. What he needs to learn is how to combine and choose to do different things.
My diet in the early days would have been the standard, typical diabetic choices diet, where you had this many carbohydrates, this many, fruits and vegetables.
And a sandwich with the bread and dairy, so you have all food groups together.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is in the stomach, where in the body of someone with diabetes, the digestive enzymes that are like little Pac-Men,
Yeah.
eat up all that food, they are in slow motion. So they're working at less than half the rate of someone without diabetes.
Okay.
So the choices he was making for himself to raise or normalize his blood sugar levels were based on that all carbohydrates are equal in the body, and they aren't.
She taught me that certain foods, like eating an apple before you eat other foods, assist the digestion of the protein afterwards. And I guess one of the other things I recall to this day too is don't eat starchy carbs. Even if you're going to have some at some point in the day, don't eat it with protein. It's just not a good combination.
Michael had poor digestion and wasn't able to assimilate the food that he was eating. So food combining allowed for the food to actually get absorbed into the body for fuel, for energy for him. So he's found that by combining vegetables with protein and eating carbohydrates on their own has made a big difference with his energy levels.
In addition to a healthy diet, Cheryl prescribes enzyme supplements to help improve Mike's digestion and absorption of essential nutrients. Cheryl also feels she can help Mike with his two most alarming symptoms, his failing eyesight and his shaky leg reaction to low sugar.
A loss of vision or failing eye vision is due to the rupture of blood vessels in the back of the eye. And that's a circulation challenge due to higher blood sugar levels. And acupuncture is able to restore and rebalance the energies in the body that allow for the circulation to be enhanced. Michael has been receiving acupuncture treatments for failing eye vision, so for restoring eye vision. And in addition to that, he's been receiving acupuncture for neuropathy in his legs and in his feet, and for circulation in general.
I can tell you that the acupuncture gives you a very restful sleep at night. Having a restful sleep, like just sleeping 5 hours in a row, that's beautiful for me.
Physical fitness has always been an important part of Mike's life, but it also has specific therapeutic benefits in the treatment of his diabetes.
Exercise allows me to manage my sugar levels much better. I can tell you there's a drastic difference in the amount of insulin I would take on a daily basis because of it. And so the less insulin I can take, the better off I'll be later on.
Of course, Mike will always have to take daily injections of insulin, but he won't have to rely on it alone when he has so many complementary alternatives to choose from.
It's going to take time. I would think at least a year or more to reverse a lot of what I feel. I don't expect a miracle overnight, but I'm willing to stay and work on it as long as it takes. Because the minute you start to see improvement, I can tell that when I have sugars in the optimal range, I just feel better on a daily basis. I feel more energetic, I can do more.